The soup hit my shoes before I even realized she'd thrown it. Zenaya's scream sliced through the air like a whip. How did you dare sit at this table without permission? The bowl shattered against the tile, sending black-eyed peas splattering across my dress, my legs, the wall. I just stood there, frozen, a 6-to-7-year-old woman staring at the mess on the floor, the steam curling up between my shoes like smoke from a fire I hadn't meant to start. And then Kareem clapped. My son. My only son. Bravo, babe, he said, grinning at his wife. The old woman has to know her place. The words hit harder than the bowl. Harder than any slap ever could. Something cracked inside me, quiet, invisible, final. But they didn't know. They didn't know about the secret I'd been keeping, the one thing that could change everything. That moment, that humiliation, it was the spark. But to understand why it burned so deep, you need to know how I got here. My name is Amora Dubois, and for most of my life, I was invisible. You'd pass me on the street and never notice me. Grey bun, plain dress, no jewelry, the kind of woman who fades into the wallpaper of the world. For 43 years, I was married to Theonius. 43 years of washing his shirts, brewing his coffee, and pretending exhaustion didn't hurt as much as silence. He wasn't cruel. He wasn't kind. He was just, ordinary. And I accepted that. Because in my generation, you didn't complain, you endured. We had one son. Kareem. The center of my world. The boy I gave up everything for, my job, my dreams, my independence. I told myself it was worth it. That motherhood meant sacrifice. Our life was simple. A small house, a small garden, a small world. But it was mine. In the evenings, I'd sit outside on the porch with a chipped mug of chamomile tea, watching the sky turn gold and orange over my tomatoes. Those were my moments of peace, the ones nobody could take away. Then Kareem got married. The day I met Zenaya, I knew she didn't want me around. She smiled for the guests, but her eyes were knives. Still, I told myself love could melt even the coldest heart. I was wrong. After the wedding, Kareem's visits became fewer. We're busy, Mom. Zenaya's not feeling well. We have plans. I nodded. I always nodded. Then Theonius died, quietly, in his sleep. One moment there, the next, gone. I woke up beside a corpse and a silence that pressed against my chest until I thought it would kill me, too. Kareem came to the funeral. Stayed for 2 hours. Zenaya didn't even come inside, said she had a migraine. And then, nothing. No calls. No visits. No son. The house became a museum of ghosts. I'd walk through each room expecting to hear Theonius humming, or Kareem laughing as a boy, but the only thing that answered was the clock ticking too loud. That's when I realized I was completely alone. No family. No friends. No one who would notice if I disappeared. And then came the thought, desperate, foolish, hopeful. Maybe if I had something to offer, he'd want me again. The house was mine. Worth $70,000. So I called him. Told him I'd sell it. That I'd buy a bigger place for all of us, him, his wife, and me. A real family home. He sounded touched. You'd really do that, Mom? Of course, I said. And I meant it. Selling the house was like peeling my skin off layer by layer. Every room whispered memories. The kitchen where I'd made his lunches. The garden where I'd watched my son take his first steps. I packed it all into cardboard boxes and told myself I wasn't losing something, I was building something new. When the sale went through, I held that check for $84,000 and felt dizzy. It was everything I had left. Kareem and Zenaya came to pick it up. It was the first time she'd stepped foot in my home. She looked around with disgust. What an antique place, she said. Smells old. I smiled. It's just the herbs drying from the garden. She rolled her eyes. Kareem hugged me. Thanks, Mom. This means so much. But his eyes weren't on me. They were on the check. We looked at apartments together. Zenaya decided everything. Kareem agreed. I stayed quiet. Finally, she found a modern condo downtown, sleek, glass, expensive. $85,000. Practically all my money. It's perfect, she said. And I said, if you two like it, I like it too. That sentence sealed my fate. At the lawyer's office, the man Isaiah Sanchez read the documents in a slow, careful voice. Then he paused. Mrs. Dubois, this condo will be under Zenaya's name? My name and my husband's, she corrected. I froze. Isaiah looked at me. You understand this means you'll have no legal claim to the property. Kareem squeezed my hand. Mom, it's just paperwork. We're family. Every instinct screamed no. But when I looked into my son's eyes, I saw the little boy who used to beg me to read him bedtime stories. It's fine, I whispered. Isaiah frowned. Then please sign here, acknowledging you're donating the money voluntarily. My hand shook so hard the signature came out crooked. And just like that, my life, my security, my home were gone. On the way out, Isaiah pressed a card into my palm. If you ever need help, call me. What you just did is dangerous. I smiled politely. Thank you, but I trust my son. He looked at me with sad eyes. I hope so. The move happened fast. Zenaya arrived with furniture straight out of a catalog, leather couches, polished wood, art that looked like spilled paint. I brought 4 boxes and my husband's photograph. Kareem carried my things into the smallest room, windowless, facing the building's ventilation shaft. This okay, Mom? Wherever there's space, son. That room became my corner of the world. Cold white walls. No sunlight. No sound except the hum of the pipes. The first night, I sat on the bed and whispered to myself, it's temporary. But something inside me already knew it wasn't. Life in that condo was like living in someone else's movie, and I was the unwanted extra. I'd make coffee in the mornings, just as I always had. Zenaya would come in, wrinkle her nose, pour it down the sink. This coffee tastes awful. Kareem said nothing. I tried to help, cleaning, cooking, folding clothes. Everything I did was wrong. Don't touch my kitchen, she'd snap. Don't use the main bathroom. Don't open the windows. Each word stripped away a piece of my dignity. At dinner, they'd eat together in the dining room while I stood in the kitchen, eating in silence. I'd listen to their laughter echo down the hall and imagine I was invisible because, to them, I was. One evening, I tried to sit with them. I'd cooked smothered chicken, Kareem's favorite from when he was little. What are you doing? Zenaya's voice froze me mid-bite. I thought we could have dinner together. She laughed. Together? Since when do you eat with us? I looked at my son. He stared at his plate. Your place is in the kitchen, she said. So I went back to the kitchen. And from there, I heard him say, thanks, babe. That night, I cried into my pillow so they wouldn't hear. I had nowhere to go. No money. No one. I'd sold my past for a future that didn't want me. The next morning, I found the lawyer's card in my purse. The corners were bent now, the ink smudged. I turned it over in my hands, reading the name again and again. Isaiah Sanchez. Maybe it was time. Maybe it was finally time to stop being invisible. I didn't know how yet, but something inside me had shifted. Something that had been sleeping for far too long was starting to wake up. The phone almost slipped out of my hands when he answered. Isaiah Sanchez, attorney at law. For a second, I couldn't speak. My throat tightened, my voice trapped somewhere between fear and hope. Mr. Sanchez, it's Amora. Amora Dubois. He paused. Then, gently. Of course I remember you. How are you, Mrs. Dubois? And just like that, all the words I'd held back for months came rushing out, a storm I couldn't stop. I'm not well, Mr. Sanchez, I sobbed. I'm not well at all. He didn't interrupt. He didn't sigh or hurry me. He just listened. So I told him everything. How my son had turned into a stranger. How his wife treated me like a stain that wouldn't wash out. How I lived like a ghost inside the condo I'd paid for. By the time I finished, I was shaking. My hands, my voice, even my breath trembled. There was silence on the other end. Then Isaiah spoke, calm but firm. Mrs. Dubois, what you've endured is cruel. And I need you to listen to me carefully, because there's something important you should know. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. What is it? He hesitated. I heard paper rustle, the click of a pen. When you came to my office months ago, I processed the sale and registration. Legally, the condo is under your son and daughter-in-law's names. However what? He exhaled slowly. I couldn't sleep after that day. Something about the way you looked, the way you trusted them so blindly, it didn't sit right with me. So I took precautions. I held my breath. I prepared a second set of documents, he said quietly. One where the condo is registered under your name, Amora Dubois, as the rightful owner. I never filed them because you didn't sign, but I kept them, just in case. For a moment, I thought I hadn't heard him correctly. You what? If you come to my office and sign them, we can file those papers and make the property legally yours. The money was yours, Mrs. Dubois. That gives you every right. My knees went weak. I had to sit down. But the donation papers. He cut in. There's a technical flaw in those. Your son and his wife signed as recipients, but the transfer of ownership was never fully executed. It's a loophole, one we can use, if you act fast. I couldn't stop crying. But this time, the tears were different. Warm. Alive. Hopeful. Why would you do this for me? I asked, my voice barely audible. Isaiah sighed. Because I have a mother your age. And because I've seen too many good people destroyed by the ones they love most. I didn't even think. I'll come today. That afternoon, I left while Zanaya was still at work. Kareem too. I didn't leave a note. Didn't want questions. It had been years since I'd taken the bus, but I remembered the route, the stops, the faces, the rhythm of the city I'd almost forgotten existed. I sat by the window, watching people move freely through the streets, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel like a ghost. Isaiah greeted me with a smile when I arrived. His office was small but warm, wooden shelves lined with books, a faint smell of coffee and paper. He poured me tea. Chamomile, he said. I remembered. I almost laughed. You have a good memory, Mr. Sanchez. I prefer to think I pay attention. He placed a thick folder in front of me. These are the documents. If you sign them, the condo will legally be yours. No tricks, no loopholes. Yours. I stared at the papers. My name was printed neatly at the top, Amora Dubois, owner. It felt unreal, like seeing a version of myself I didn't believe in anymore. How long will it take? A week, maybe less. I have a few contacts at the property registry who can expedite it. He handed me a pen. I held it, my fingers trembling. What if I regret it later? I whispered. He looked at me, calm, kind, certain. Then don't sign. But before you decide, let me ask you something. He leaned forward. Does your son treat you with love? I shook my head. Does your daughter-in-law treat you with respect? Another shake. Are you happy in that condo? The tears started again before I could stop them. No. I feel like I'm slowly dying there. He nodded. Then you already have your answer. I signed. Every page. Every initial. Every line. When I finished, Isaiah gathered the papers carefully, like they were fragile glass. Now, you let me handle the rest. I'll call you in a week. Until then, don't say a word to anyone. I won't, I promised. As I stood to leave, I hesitated. How much do I owe you? He shook his head. Nothing. This isn't about money. It's about justice. The air outside smelled like rain, but the city glowed in the late afternoon light. I walked to the bus stop, the wind tugging at my hair, my chest light for the first time in months. When I got home, the condo was quiet. Too quiet. I slipped into my room, closed the door, and leaned against it, listening. My hands were still shaking. I could feel the weight of what I'd done, but also, something else. Power. For the first time in years, I felt powerful. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, imagining all the ways this could go wrong and all the ways it could go right. 3 days passed. Zanaya barely spoke to me. Kareem was distant, as usual. I waited. pretending nothing had changed, even though everything had. On the fourth day, Isaiah called. "It's done," he said simply. "The registry processed everything. As of today, you are the legal owner of the condo. They can't take it from you." My breath caught in my throat. I don't know what to say." "Say nothing," he replied. "Just live your life. But be careful. Don't let them know yet. Not until the papers arrive." I thanked him. I couldn't stop crying again, but this time it was joy, quiet, private joy. That evening, I heard Zanaya's heels clicking down the hallway. She stopped at my door and knocked once, hard. "Come in," I said. She walked in, eyes sharp as glass. "We need to talk." My heart dropped. "What is it?" "I need this room," she said. "I'm turning it into my home office. You'll have to move out." "Move out?" My voice cracked. "Where would I go?" She shrugged. "Not my problem. Maybe a senior facility. Or the living room couch. You can figure it out." I swallowed hard, my pulse racing. "You can't just." "I can do whatever I want," she interrupted, her tone like ice. "It's my house." I stared at her. Just days ago, she would have been right. But now, she wasn't. I almost laughed. The irony was too perfect. Her house. Not anymore. I bit back the smile rising in my throat. "When do you need the room?" "As soon as possible." "All right," I said softly. "Give me a few days." She narrowed her eyes, suspicious. "That's it. No crying. No begging." "Why would I beg?" I said. "You've already made up your mind." For a moment, I saw something flicker in her eyes, confusion, maybe fear. She wasn't used to me agreeing so easily. "Good," she said finally, and turned on her heel. The door slammed behind her. I sat on the edge of my bed, my heart pounding, a strange, almost dangerous calm spreading through me. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of her. Let her think she'd won. Let her think she could push me out. In a few days, when those papers arrived, she'd realize she wasn't the queen of this castle anymore. That night, I opened my purse and looked at the small envelope Isaiah had given me. Inside were copies of the signed documents, neatly folded. My name stared back at me in bold print. Amora Dubois, property owner. I traced the letters with my finger, whispering them under my breath like a prayer. They had taken everything from me, my home, my peace, my pride. But now, for the first time, I had something of my own again. Something they could never take away. The envelope was small. So small, it almost looked harmless. It arrived on a Wednesday morning, slipped under my door while I was folding laundry. A plain white envelope with my name typed neatly in the corner. No logo, no return address. Just Amora Dubois. My hands trembled as I picked it up. I already knew what it was before I opened it, Isaiah's promise, made real. I tore it open and pulled out the documents. Thick paper. Official seals. Stamped signatures. My name, printed in bold black letters, property owner, Amora Dubois. For a second, I couldn't breathe. All those nights I'd cried into my pillow. All those insults. All the humiliation. And now, this piece of paper changed everything. It didn't erase the pain. But it gave it purpose. I slid the documents into a folder and hid them beneath the lining of my suitcase, under old sweaters no one ever touched. Then I sat on the bed, closed my eyes, and whispered, "They don't know yet." And that, I realized, was my advantage. That evening, I cooked dinner, real dinner, not the scraps I usually ate. Braised chicken, roasted vegetables, the works. The smell filled the condo, warm and familiar, like the old house before everything fell apart. When Kareem came home, he sniffed the air. "Smells good, Mom." I smiled. "Thank you, sweetheart. Dinner's ready." Zanaya appeared behind him, frowning. "Did you ask before using my kitchen?" "I didn't think I needed to ask," I said, my voice calm. "We all live here, don't we?" She folded her arms. "You'll clean up afterward." "I always do." She rolled her eyes but said nothing. We ate together for the first time in months. Or maybe played at eating together. Kareem scrolled through his phone between bites, and Zanaya barely looked at me. But I didn't care. I was studying them now, not serving them. Every tone, every word, every glance, I catalogued them quietly like evidence. Because I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was planning. 2 days later, the shift began. Zanaya had her friends over again, loud voices, expensive perfume, clinking glasses. I stayed in my room, reading, pretending not to exist. Then I heard it. Laughter. My name. Honestly, I don't know how you live with her, one of them said. I'd lose my mind. Oh, you get used to it, Zanaya replied. She's harmless. Just like an old cat that won't die. More laughter. I felt the heat rise in my chest. My nails dug into the pages of my book until they tore. An old cat that won't die. I stood up, opened the door, and stepped into the hallway. The laughter stopped. Zanaya turned, wineglass in hand. Oh, you're awake. Yes, I said quietly. I am. Her friends exchanged nervous looks. One whispered something. I smiled politely. I didn't mean to interrupt your fun. I just came to remind you to keep your voices down after 10. Building rules. Her jaw tightened. Since when do you care about rules? Since I live here, I said simply, then turned and walked back to my room. Behind me, I heard her hiss under her breath, unbelievable. For the first time, I didn't care. A week passed. The condo began to feel different, not because they changed, but because I did. I stopped apologizing for existing. When I cooked, I left my pots on the stove. When I watched TV, I didn't lower the volume. When I walked through the living room, I looked straight ahead. Zanaya didn't like it. I could see the confusion growing in her eyes, the discomfort of a predator whose prey had stopped cowering. One afternoon, I was reading in the kitchen when she walked in. You didn't clean the counter, she snapped. I looked at her calmly. Then clean it. Her eyes widened. Excuse me? I said, if it bothers you, clean it. I'm busy. She stared at me like I'd spoken in another language. What's gotten into you? Nothing, I said, flipping a page. Just tired. She stormed out, muttering something under her breath. Kareem noticed too. He came into my room that night, hesitant. Mom, you okay? I looked up from my book. Better than ever. You've been acting different. Maybe I just remembered who I am. He frowned, confused, but didn't press further. He left, and I smiled to myself. Let them wonder. 3 days later, Isaiah called again. Mrs. Dubois, just checking in. The registration is finalized. The original papers are filed with the county clerk. The condo is fully yours. I swallowed hard. So, they can't contest it? No. It's airtight. The sale documents your son and daughter-in-law signed left a legal loophole. You filled it. If they try to challenge it, they'll lose. I thanked him again. My voice trembled as I hung up. Then I stood up, went to the mirror, and stared at my reflection. I didn't see the broken woman from before. I saw someone else, someone dangerous in her calmness. That evening, when Kareem came home, I was sitting in the living room, something I hadn't done in months. He blinked. Mom, you're watching TV? Yes, I said, smiling faintly. Is that a problem? He hesitated. No, of course not. I just didn't expect it. People change, Kareem. He looked uneasy, as if he couldn't quite recognize me. Zanaya came in a few minutes later, arms full of shopping bags. Move, she ordered, pointing at the couch. That's my spot. I didn't move. Her voice sharpened. Did you not hear me? Oh, I heard you, I said, eyes on the screen. But I like this seat. The silence that followed was heavy. Even the TV noise felt small against it. Kareem looked between us, uncertain. Babe, maybe just. No, she cut him off. She's being disrespectful. I turned my head slowly, met her eyes. You think respect means obedience. It doesn't. Zenaya's face flushed. She dropped her bags on the floor, the sound echoing like a gunshot. What's going on with you lately? She demanded. You think you can just live? I interrupted. Yes. I do. And then, softly, I've earned that right. She stared at me, furious but speechless. Then she turned to Kareem. Do something. He rubbed the back of his neck. I don't know what you want me to do. She glared at both of us and stormed off, slamming the bedroom door. Kareem sighed and sank onto the couch beside me. You really shouldn't provoke her, Mom. I didn't, I said calmly. I just stopped apologizing. He shook his head, muttering something I couldn't catch, and went after her. I turned back to the TV, but my mind wasn't on the show. For years, I'd begged for peace. Now I was learning peace isn't something you beg for, it's something you take back. The next morning, Zenaya's revenge began, small, sharp, childish. She hid my tea, poured out my milk, deleted my shows from the DVR. I didn't react. When she realized silence didn't bother me, she tried something else. By the way, she said over breakfast, her voice syrupy sweet. We've decided to sell the condo and move to a bigger one. I already talked to a realtor. I almost laughed. You what? She smirked. We'll get a great deal. Prices are high right now. Oh, and since it's in our name, we don't need your approval. I let the silence stretch, watching her eyes glitter with confidence. Then I smiled. Good luck with that, I said. She blinked. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, I said, sipping my coffee. Just, good luck. She frowned, suspicious, but didn't ask. And I didn't tell her. Not yet. That night, I lay in bed, listening to the city hum outside. For months, I'd felt like a ghost trapped in a home that rejected me. Now, the walls didn't feel so cold. Because they were mine. All mine. And they didn't even know it yet. But soon, they would. And when that moment came, when they realized the truth, I wanted to see their faces. Every ounce of cruelty. Every insult. Every humiliation. It was all coming back to them. And I wouldn't raise my voice. I wouldn't need to. Because the loudest revenge is silence. It started with a knock. A sharp, impatient knock that rattled the door frame and sliced through the morning silence. I was in the kitchen, pouring my coffee, when I heard it. Kareem opened the door. A man in a navy suit stood there, holding a clipboard. Delivery for Mrs. Dubois, he said. Mrs. who? Kareem frowned. Amora Dubois. I turned, smiled, and walked over slowly. That's me. The man nodded, handing me a large envelope. From the county clerk's office. Please sign here. I signed. My hands were steady this time. When I turned around, Kareem and Zenaya were both staring at me. What is that? She demanded. Official documents, I said, slipping the envelope under my arm. About what? About the condo, I answered lightly. Her face froze. What about the condo? I smiled. You'll find out soon enough. I walked past her, calm as still water, and closed my bedroom door behind me. Inside, I sat on my bed and opened the envelope. There it was, the final, certified copy from the registry office. My name, stamped and notarized, on every page. I traced the gold seal with my fingertip, my pulse calm and steady. It was done. It was real. I tucked the papers into the drawer beneath my husband's photo. He looked at me from the frame, his eyes soft and tired. You'd be proud of me, I whispered. For once, I didn't stay silent. That evening, I found them in the living room, whispering in low voices. When I walked in, the conversation stopped. Zenaya was the first to speak. You got something from the registry today. I did. About what? The condo. She crossed her arms. And it's mine. The silence that followed was almost musical. Kareem blinked. What do you mean, yours? Exactly what it sounds like, I said softly. The condo is legally mine now. Registered under my name. Zenaya laughed, but it was a sharp, nervous laugh. That's impossible. It's in our name. It was, I corrected. Not anymore. Kareem's face paled. Mom, are you sure? I met his eyes. Yes, son. I'm very sure. Zenaya's smile vanished. You're lying. Would you like to see the papers? She hesitated. Show me. I turned, walked to my room, and came back with the folder. I laid it on the coffee table and stepped back. She snatched it open, her fingers trembling as she read. Each page drained the color from her face. When she reached the last one, the notarized signature and seal, her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Finally, she whispered, How? I sat down across from her. Calm. Composed. Let's just say, a good man helped me fix a bad mistake. Her eyes darted up. That lawyer. I smiled faintly. Yes. Isaiah Sanchez. You remember him, don't you? Her lips trembled. You tricked us. No, I said. You tricked me. I simply corrected the record. Kareem rubbed his temples. Mom, you can't just. I can, I said sharply. And I did. The condo was bought with my money. I signed those donation papers under pressure, and your lawyer friend confirmed that transfer was never valid. So I filed new ones. Legally. Properly. And now, this place is mine. For the first time in months, silence worked in my favor. Zenaya stood up so fast the chair scraped against the tile. You can't do this. We live here. Yes, you do. As my guests. Her face turned red. Guests? You crazy old woman. Kareem grabbed her arm. Babe, calm down. Calm down, she snapped. She's stealing our home. Our home? I repeated softly. Funny. I thought it was mine. Kareem looked at me with something that almost resembled shame. Almost. Mom, he said quietly. You could have told me. I could have, I replied. But you wouldn't have listened. He didn't argue. Because he knew I was right. The next few days were strange. The air in the condo felt electric, charged with unspoken fear. Zenaya avoided me, moving through the apartment like a ghost. Kareem tiptoed around both of us. I went about my days as usual, cleaning, cooking, reading, but everything was different now. When I walked into a room, she went quiet. When I spoke, she flinched. For years, I'd been the one shrinking. Now it was her. And I didn't enjoy it, not exactly. But I didn't stop it, either. 3 nights later, I woke to the sound of muffled voices coming from the hallway. We can fight it, Zenaya was whispering. There has to be a way. Babe, she has the papers, Kareem said. It's legal. I checked. So what? You're just going to let her throw us out? She's not throwing us out. Yet, Zenaya hissed. But she will. You think she won't? After everything? There was a pause. Then, softly, Kareem said, maybe we deserve it. I froze. For the first time, I heard guilt in his voice. Real guilt. Zenaya scoffed. You're pathetic. Then footsteps. A door slamming. Silence. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling. For a long time, I thought revenge would feel like fireworks. But it didn't. It felt quiet. Cold. Sad. Because I had won, but the victory tasted bitter. The next morning, I found Kareem sitting at the kitchen table, staring into his coffee. He looked older. Tired. Didn't sleep? I asked. He shook his head. Zenaya's staying at her sister's for a few days. I see. He sighed. Mom. I know we hurt you. The words caught me off guard. We. He nodded slowly. Mostly her, but I let it happen. I was afraid to choose sides. You chose hers, I said quietly. I know. He looked up at me, eyes glossy. I just wanted peace. I thought if I stayed out of it, it would keep everyone calm. Silence doesn't bring peace, Kareem, I said softly. It only feeds the ones who hurt you. He nodded again, then whispered, I'm sorry, Mom. I felt something shift inside me. The anger that had been burning for months softened, not gone, but dimmed. You can stay here, I said finally. For now. But things are going to change. He frowned. What do you mean? I'm not your maid. I'm not your servant. If you stay, you live by my rules. This is my home now. He swallowed hard. I understand. I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time in years, I saw the boy I'd raised, buried under layers of fear and weakness. Maybe there was still a piece of him worth saving. That afternoon, I opened the windows wide for the first time since I'd moved in. Sunlight poured into the living room, warm and golden. The air smelled like freedom. I made tea, strong, fragrant, mine. As I sat by the window, I saw my reflection in the glass. Grey hair, soft wrinkles, tired eyes, but steady. The woman staring back at me wasn't invisible anymore. Later that night, my phone buzzed. It was Isaiah. Mrs. Du Bois, everything still all right? Yes, I said. Better than all right. I'm glad, he said. And proud of you. Not many people your age would have had the courage to stand up like that. I smiled. You gave me the tools. I just used them. Still, he said. Be careful. Power changes people, even the ones who earn it. His words lingered long after I hung up. Because he was right. Something inside me had changed. I wasn't the same woman who'd cried quietly in the kitchen months ago. And now that I'd tasted control, I wasn't sure I could let it go. The next morning, Zenia came back. She didn't speak to me. She just walked straight to her room, heels clicking hard against the floor. But when she passed me in the hallway, I caught her reflection in the mirror, her eyes filled with quiet hate. And I smiled to myself. Because she could glare all she wanted. She could plot, whisper, rage, none of it mattered anymore. The papers were signed. The law was on my side. This was my house now. And she lived in it only because I allowed it. It began with silence. Not peace, not that kind of silence, but the heavy, suffocating kind that crawls through walls and settles inside your bones. Zenia didn't yell. She didn't throw things or insult me. She just stopped talking. Days went by without a word between us. She'd pass me in the hallway like I was air. Her perfume would linger, but her eyes never met mine. And sometimes, that kind of silence hurts more than screams. At first, I thought she was surrendering. But I should have known better. People like Zenia don't surrender. They wait. It was a Thursday afternoon when I realized what she was doing. I went down to the mailbox to collect the usual bills, and found 3 envelopes addressed to me, all from the same company. Overdue notices. Electric. Gas. Water. All unpaid. My stomach dropped. I paid the bills on time every month. I kept the receipts neatly folded in a small drawer beside my bed. When I checked them, I saw the problem. The payment amounts had been changed. The due dates altered. Someone had gone online, logged into my account, and cancelled every payment. Someone who had the password. There was only one person who knew it besides me. Zenia. I waited until she got home that evening. She came in humming, carrying shopping bags, sunglasses perched on her head like she owned the sun. Can we talk? I asked. She didn't stop walking. I'm busy. It won't take long. She sighed, setting down her bags. What now, Amora? I held up the envelopes. Did you do this? She glanced at them. What are those? You know exactly what they are. She tilted her head, smiling slightly. Maybe you're getting forgetful. Happens with age. My jaw tightened. Don't lie to me. She laughed, that dry, cruel laugh that had haunted me for months. And if I did? What will you do? Call the cops? Tell them your daughter-in-law changed your password? She leaned closer. You might own this condo now, but you'll always be small, Amora. Power doesn't suit you. Her words sliced through me. I wanted to scream. To hit her. To throw something just to make her flinch. But I didn't. I took a deep breath. Be careful, Zenia. She smirked. Are you threatening me? No, I said softly. I'm warning you. Her smile faltered for half a second, just enough for me to see the flicker of fear. That night, the lights went out. All at once, click, darkness swallowed the apartment. I stumbled through the living room, my heart pounding. Kareem. I called. What happened? He appeared with his phone flashlight. Probably a short circuit. I'll check the fuse box. Zenia stood behind him, arms crossed. Or maybe someone forgot to pay the bills. I glared at her. I did pay them. She raised an eyebrow. Did you? Kareem sighed. Not now, please. He disappeared into the hallway. I heard the metal door creak, a few clicks, then nothing. The main breaker's fine, he said finally. It's the building. Power outage. Zeniah looked disappointed. The power came back at midnight. I didn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the ways she could hurt me without ever touching me. It wasn't the bills. It wasn't even the electricity. It was control. Every little thing she did was meant to remind me that she still had it. That no matter what the papers said, she could still make me suffer. And it was working. By morning, I felt like a prisoner again. Over the next week, small things began to vanish. My favorite mug, gone. A pair of shoes, gone. A photograph of my husband, gone. Each missing item felt like a message. You may have the deed, but I own your peace. Then came the whispers. The neighbors started looking at me strangely in the lobby, offering tight smiles that didn't reach their eyes. One of them, Mrs. Alvarez, pulled me aside one morning. Amora, I heard you were having trouble, she said softly. Trouble? Your daughter-in-law told people you've been confused lately. Forgetting things. Leaving the stove on. My stomach turned. That's not true. She squeezed my hand. I didn't believe it, but maybe be careful. People talk. I thanked her and walked away, my face burning. Zeniah wasn't just trying to break me. She was trying to erase me. That evening, I confronted her again. I know what you've been saying about me. She looked up from her tablet, pretending to be innocent. What do you mean? The neighbors. The lies. You're telling people I'm losing my mind. She smirked. Aren't you? Something inside me snapped. I slammed my hand on the table so hard the sound echoed through the kitchen. Don't you dare. For the first time, she flinched. You think you can push me until I break, I said, my voice trembling. But you've underestimated me, Zeniah. You always have. She stood slowly. You're unstable, Amora. You're proving my point. I laughed. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't sane. But it was real. You want unstable? Keep pushing me. For a moment, we stood there, two women locked in a silent war. One young, cruel, and beautiful. The other old, tired, but unbreakable. Kareem walked in, sensing the tension. What's going on? Nothing, Zeniah said quickly. Your mother's upset again. I turned to him. She's lying. He looked between us, exhausted. Please, can we just stop fighting for one day? She smiled sweetly. Of course, honey. I watched her wrap her arm around him and lead him out of the room. He didn't even look back. That night, I found the last straw. I walked into my room and stopped cold. My husband's photograph, the one I kept beside my bed, was shattered on the floor. The glass cracked straight through his face. I knew who did it. My hands trembled as I picked it up. I sat on the bed, running my thumb over the broken glass, blood blooming where it cut me. And for the first time in my life, I felt something close to hatred. Not the quiet kind I'd felt before. Not the ache of disappointment or sorrow. This was fire. Sharp. Focused. Dangerous. I cleaned the blood, wrapped my finger, and stared at the door. Enough. The next morning, I called Isaiah. I can't take it anymore, I said. What happened? She's trying to destroy me. Piece by piece. What can I do? He paused for a long moment. Mrs. Dubois, legally, the condo is yours. You have every right to evict them. I blinked. Evict them? Yes. File a notice. Give them 30 days to vacate. They'll have no choice. My breath caught. I don't know if I can do that. Why not? Because she's his wife, I whispered. And he's my son. Isaiah's voice softened. And they've treated you like an enemy. Sometimes blood doesn't make family, kindness does. His words hit me harder than any slap. When I hung up, I sat in silence for a long time. Could I really do it? Could I throw my son out of the only home we shared? The thought made me sick. But the alternative, staying here, shrinking until nothing was left, felt worse. That evening, I printed the eviction notice. I didn't tell them. Not yet. I folded it neatly, placed it inside an envelope, and left it on the kitchen counter where they'd see it. Then I went to my room, closed the door, and waited. 10 minutes later, I heard footsteps. Then silence. Then a scream. "Are you out of your mind?" Zenaya's voice cracked the air like a whip. The door flew open. She stood there, the letter crushed in her fist. "You're evicting us," she screamed. "You can't do this." "I can," I said, standing up slowly. "And I am." Kareem appeared behind her, pale and wide-eyed. "Mom, please. I gave you everything," I said, my voice shaking. "My home. My savings. My love. And you gave me humiliation. You let her treat me like garbage in my own house." Tears blurred my vision. "So yes, Kareem. I'm doing this. For me." He took a step forward, desperate. "Where will we go? That's not my problem anymore." Zenaya lunged at me, but Kareem grabbed her arm. "Don't," he warned. She glared at me, her voice venomous. "You'll regret this, old woman." I met her gaze, calm and unflinching. "I already did. But not anymore." They left the next day, or most of them did. Zenaya stormed out with boxes, muttering curses under her breath. Kareem packed slower, quiet, ashamed. When he came to the door, suitcase in hand, he turned to me. "Mom, are you sure?" I looked at him, my son, my greatest love, my greatest wound. "Yes," I whispered. "I'm sure." He nodded once, eyes glassy. "I'm sorry." Then he walked out. I closed the door behind him. The lock clicked softly, the sound of finality. And for the first time in years, the silence in the house didn't hurt. It was peace. Real peace. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of chamomile tea. The moonlight spilled through the windows, soft and silver. I opened the photo of Theonius again, the glass still cracked. "I did it," I whispered. "I finally did it." For the first time, his face looked proud. I smiled, a tired, trembling smile. But deep inside, a question stirred. What comes after survival? I didn't know yet. But I was finally free enough to find out. The condo was too quiet. Not peaceful, not really. Just empty. Every sound echoed now, the kettle boiling, the clock ticking, the creak of the floor when I moved from room to room. For the first few days, I felt light. Free. Like I could finally breathe after holding my lungs tight for years. But by the end of the week, that freedom started to taste like loneliness. I'd sit at the table, 2 teacups out of habit. One for me. One for no one. Sometimes I'd turn, expecting to see Kareem's shoes by the door. Or hear Zenaya's sharp voice coming from the hallway. But there was only silence. And in that silence, the memories started talking. I thought I'd feel proud. Victorious. Instead, I just felt tired. Every time I looked at the eviction notice pinned to the fridge, the proof that I'd finally stood up for myself, my chest ached. Was this what winning felt like? Because if it was, it didn't feel like triumph. It felt like ashes. One afternoon, the doorbell rang. I froze. For a moment, I thought I'd imagined it. Then it rang again, softer this time. I opened the door. Kareem stood there. Alone. His eyes were sunken, his clothes wrinkled. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Hi, Mom." The word hit me like a wave. It had been weeks since I'd heard him call me that. "Come in," I said quietly. He stepped inside, looking around as if he was seeing the place for the first time. "It's clean," he murmured. "You always keep it clean. Some habits don't die easily." We sat at the table. I poured tea. He didn't touch his cup. "I didn't come to fight," he said finally. "I didn't think you did." He hesitated. "Zenaya's gone." I blinked. "Gone?" She left. Said she needed space. Took most of the money, too. I watched him carefully. "I'm sorry." He nodded. "No, you're not." I smiled faintly. "Maybe not." Silence stretched between us, awkward, raw. Then he said softly, "You were right, Mom." "About what?" "Everything." I wanted to believe him. I really did. But a part of me couldn't. "You didn't come here to say that," I said. He looked down. "I came to ask for help." The air shifted. "Help?" He rubbed the back of his neck. "I don't have anywhere to go. Not yet. I just need a little time." I stared at him, heart pounding. Part of me wanted to say no, to protect the fragile peace I'd fought for. But another part, the mother part, couldn't ignore the boy I'd once rocked to sleep. "How long?" I asked finally. "A few days." I nodded slowly. "Fine. A few days. But this time, my rules stand." He exhaled, relief flooding his face. "Thank you, Mom." That night, I barely slept. His presence filled the house again, his footsteps, his phone buzzing, the soft hum of his voice on late-night calls. I told myself it was temporary. But by the third day, I knew better. He started slipping. First, little things, dishes left out, doors left open. Then the excuses. "Just for a while," he kept saying. "Just until I figure things out." But it wasn't about time. It was about control. One evening, I found him sitting in the living room, staring at the TV. My husband's photo sat on the coffee table beside him, the cracked glass still unrepaired. "Why haven't you fixed it?" I asked quietly. He didn't look up. "Because maybe it's better this way." "What do you mean?" He turned to me, his eyes dark. "You broke this family, Mom. You might have been right about Zeniah, but you didn't have to destroy everything." I felt the words hit me like cold water. "I destroyed everything." He stood up. "You kicked us out. You made her leave me. You made me nothing." I took a step back. "Kareem, I gave you everything I had. And then you took it all back," he snapped. "Because you couldn't stand not being in control." He was shaking, angry, exhausted, desperate. "Maybe you're right," I whispered. "Maybe I wanted control. Because you and she took everything else from me." He clenched his jaw, looking away. "You've changed." "So have you," I said softly. "But only one of us grew up." He glared at me, and for a moment, I saw his father, that same look of stubborn pride that always ended in destruction. I turned away before the tears came. "You have until Sunday." By Saturday, I felt something in the air. A storm coming, not weather, but fate. That night, I woke to a faint sound. Footsteps. I got out of bed quietly and opened my door. The hallway light was on. Kareem stood at the counter, holding the deed papers, my papers, in his hands. "What are you doing?" I whispered. He spun around, startled. "Nothing." "Don't lie to me." He swallowed hard. "I just wanted to see them." "Why?" "Because," his voice cracked. "Because I can't stand that everything in this place belongs to you." For a second, neither of us moved. Then he slammed the folder down, breathing hard. "You've punished me enough. You got what you wanted. What more do you need?" I stared at him. "I just wanted respect, Kareem. I wanted my son back." He laughed bitterly. "Too late for that." The words sliced deep, deeper than any insult. "Then go," I whispered. "Go before I stop caring." He hesitated, his jaw trembling, then stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The lock rattled. The glass in the frame shook. And then, silence again. The next morning, I woke to a note on the counter. "I'm sorry. You were right. I just need to think. Don't wait up." No signature. Just his handwriting. He didn't come back that night. Or the next. Or ever again. Weeks passed. I reported him missing, but no one found him. His phone went dead. His bank account stopped moving. It was as if he'd vanished into thin air. At night, I replayed every word we'd said, every look, every silence. Had I pushed him too far? The guilt crept in quietly, like fog. Maybe I had won the war, but at what cost? One afternoon, a letter arrived. No return address. Just my name, written in his handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it. "Mom, you were right. I needed to see what life looked like without you, and it's darker than I thought. I can't forgive myself for what I let happen, but maybe someday you can. I'm sorry for everything. Don't look for me. I need to start over. Kareem. The paper smelled faintly of rain. The ink was smudged, as if he'd written it crying. I pressed the letter to my chest and wept, not for him, not for me, but for the years between us that neither of us could get back. Now, months later, the condo is quiet again. Truly quiet this time. The neighbors nod politely when they see me. Isaiah calls sometimes to check in. But mostly, it's just me and the ticking clock. I've started painting small canvases of light and sea and trees. I hang them where the old pictures used to be. Sometimes I still set 2 cups on the table. One for me. One for the ghosts I made peace with. Because I've learned something no one tells you about freedom. It doesn't come clean. It comes scarred. You don't escape pain by fighting it. You live through it until it becomes part of your strength. And every scar whispers the same truth. You survived. Tonight, I sit by the window, the city lights flickering below. Theonius's photo rests on the sill, glass finally replaced. I sip my tea, close my eyes, and whisper into the dark. I did it. I'm still here. Outside, thunder rumbles somewhere far away, not a storm, just a reminder that peace never lasts forever. But this time, I'm not afraid. Because even if life tries to shake me again, I'll stay standing. I always do. The end. Optional epilogue for cinematic closure. A week later, as I sort through the mail, one envelope stands out, stamped from another city. Inside is a photograph. Kareem. Smiling. Standing beside a woman I've never seen. No note. No return address. Just the picture. I trace the edges, tears filling my eyes, not from sorrow, but from relief. He's alive. And somewhere, maybe, he's finally free too.